Does the government work for us, or do we work for the government? Can the United States engage in secret operations at home and abroad around the world in the name of national security? Or are such actions nothing more than authoritarianism and adventurism, designed to make the people feel secure but be less free? Tonight, secret government and blowback. It was revealed a few days ago that 3 weeks ago, President Obama secretly ordered covert operations in Libya. An administration official tells Fox that the CIA already has boots on the ground in Libya, something the president didn't tell the American people when he spoke to us about it last night, but something Freedom Watch's intelligence sources have been saying for a few weeks. And as you just heard from Colonel Anthony Shaffer tonight, this is nothing new. Similar operations were executed during the enforcement of no-fly zones in Bosnia and Iraq, which contributed to the evolution of the conflicts there. Iraq, notably, began as a UN operation in 1991. That's 20 years ago, and spiraled into a near decade-long enforcement of a no-fly zone and weapons inspection regime that eventually became nearly another decade of unconstitutional and war and illegal occupation. There are still more than 100,000 American boots on the ground in Iraq. More on that history at another time, but the point is, these things have consequences. And it's not just the CIA that operates clandestinely overseas. During the Vietnam War, the U.S. military engaged in a secret war in Cambodia, a bombing campaign aimed at routing out the Viet Cong, which the largely drafted American armed forces were fighting in one of a series of illegal, unconstitutional wars in the last century. The bombing campaign in Cambodia, as you may recall, destabilized the region, creating the space for Pol Pot and his murderous Khmer Rouge regime to seize power and commit one of the largest auto-genocides, that's the systematic murder of your own people, in modern history. His forces slaughtered more than 2.5 million of their own people. It was another spectacular example of the unintended consequences of American military adventurism. Think about it. A government comfortable enough in brazenly violating human rights and national sovereignty abroad will be enabled to do the same at home. It is particularly troubling that President Obama is advancing the same domestic and foreign spying and covert operations promoted so boldly by President George W. Bush. Because Senator Obama's candidacy represented itself as a break from the path his predecessor had been taking us down, the fact that President Obama's presidency has been consumed by that which he was elected to prevent, the culture of national security paranoia, the delegitimization of dissent, the foreign wars of aggression. This means he has shamelessly become the opposite of what he said he would be. This former defender of the Constitution and civil liberties has effectively silenced the anti-war left, legitimized neoconservatism, and maintained his predecessor's security state policies. There is hope, however. The secret bombing in Cambodia was a secret only for a few years, and of course the Cambodians being bombed knew about it immediately. The Pentagon Papers were made public about events in the Vietnam War while the war was still dragging on. WikiLeaks facilitated the release of State Department documents that spanned a half-century and contributed to the upheaval against governments throughout the Middle East and North Africa. We are in a war right now against one of those very countries. And it has not taken weeks, but just days for the president's secret signing on covert operations in Libya to be revealed. Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks, once wrote, "The more secretive and unjust an organization is, the more leaks about it induce fear and paranoia in its leadership." He's right. The more we know about the government, the less the government likes it. That's one of the reasons I almost always ask at the outset of these closing arguments every day here on Freedom Watch if the government works for us or if we work for the government. The answer to that question was once quite obvious, but it will only stay quite obvious that the government works for us when we keep the government within the confines of the Constitution. If we let the government spy on us, if we let it kill Libyans or anyone else in our names, if the Congress lets the president fight wars without the Congress having declared them, and if we elect to high office people who do the opposite of what they promise they will do when they are seeking our votes, we will not have a government of laws, but a government of whims. Either the Constitution means what it says or it doesn't. Either the president's oath to uphold it is binding or it isn't. Either it is sufficient to protect our freedoms or it can't. The lesson is clear. The Constitution is only as valuable to us as the supreme law of the land, as is the fidelity to first principles of those to whom we have entrusted it. If we send the wrong people to the government, we will lose our freedoms. If we send lovers of the Constitution to the government, we will stay free.